So I'm back out at the property today. I just wanted to take a look at kind of the final dirt work that was done. There's some rock that needs to go down on the driveway yet, but they couldn't get any rock from the quarry currently of the stuff that we needed. So we're waiting on that, but that should be coming here in the next couple weeks, hopefully. They kind of just go on a rotation of what they're making depending on certain weather conditions. We're going right now with more of a roadstone that will have a bunch of fines in it as well to kind of pack things down so that all this traffic that comes out here during construction will have kind of a good base there, and then we'll put something probably more over top of it next season to smooth everything out and have it be a really nice driveway. But so far I haven't been able to take a look at the final work up at the building spot. Right now I've been able to take a look at this driveway section, and it's quite amazing how much it has changed. I never really thought about how low it was in certain spots and how much the water was probably going to be a long-term problem without doing something like this. So I'll show you that today. And then also with that storm that went through, I have not gone up through any of the trails to see if we have any trees down or anything like that. So we'll probably do that today as well. So we're standing right now at kind of the entrance to the driveway. So what they did was make sure that everything matches up now with the bridge height. Before, as you went across that bridge, it got quite a bit lower down through that section. So what they wanted to have happen was that the water is all now going to move over to this side, and as we move up the hill you'll be able to probably tell a little bit better, but it now comes down more gradually towards the bottom, and then they shaped this over here so that this ditch that's right down here underneath this bridge is where the water should run into more naturally now. So really the same thing on this side of the driveway. It's shaped and kind of moved so that any water that comes down on this side, as it comes down, it will run this direction straight to the other side of the bridge here and the other side of the waterway. So moving the water now and being much more intentional with where it's going. This is just a closer look at that little swale here that was not there before. That will allow sort of this to be a natural ditch, if you will, to go down into that other section. And so all of this will have to be planted with something. I'm going to try to make a decision on that as to what sort of plants we want to go in here, some sort of native grasses or something, or what's going to be there to hold everything in place and do that well while having kind of some water go through there sometimes. Found a huge pile over here of what I believe is probably an old bridge. So probably when they did that new one, this is where everything got pushed and piled up, but there's some pretty major steel beams in there. So here's just a close-up of some of the stone that's on the driveway. We have limestone here in Iowa, at least in this region for the most part, that's on the gravel roads. It's good for some things, it's kind of a pain in others. It does pack together really, really well, but also when it's really wet in the spring, you get this stuff on your vehicle, and if you don't get it washed off, it can kind of becomes like concrete on there. So it does make a really good base with these larger stones once they get packed in. Like I said, there is a lot of fines in this because this was all crushed, so that helps to kind of bring that base together and make it stronger. So I'm standing on the driveway now, and you can kind of see how things have sloped and changed. So this is much, much higher than it was before. This was all a really low spot. About where my truck is about how low it was in all of this section. So what was going to happen was that all of that water coming down the hill was going to end up pooling down here, and I had already seen that quite a few times. Even though it didn't rain much last year, when it did rain, it all kind of was down here. So our main intention now is to hopefully get it to run down this section over here, and we'll just see how it goes long term. Some things might need to be adjusted, change just a little bit over time. You just never know until you kind of see it in action, but it looks a lot better, and our plan, I think, is a lot better than it was before. So this should give you a sense of how much soil we had to move from up there to down here to make this as gradual as it is and to build it up as high as it is. And then obviously over here, this used to be a really steep hill that down at the bottom was really low, and then as you came up here it was steep, but all of this is now smoothed out. That'll all have to be planted with something so we control the erosion, but it just looks really, really nice off this side. It's pretty steep going to the fence line. You know, that's what we had to do in order to make this middle section as high as it is. Same thing over here. This is where I did plant some tall fescue, but you can see I'll need to do some work there because this had to be blended out into here a little bit more, make this water from this section run towards that little kind of berm through there. So I'm gonna have to come up and clean that up too a little bit. I have still some piles left from this summer where we cleaned out that field. I have a bunch of soil in there that needs to be cleaned up, so that won't be a problem with the Kubota. So here we are up at the top of the hill now with the building site. You can see the stakes are in there, so I will be able to give you a sense of the size of the building, but it has changed so much up here with this work now. This is all leveled out, and it looks interesting because of how big of a berm there is now on that other side, but the way they've shaped it is so that the water is going to kind of come around the building, and I'll show you over there. It's going to go out on that end the way they've shaped it, and then on this end it's going to kind of come around and run up this front section where the building is still the high spot, and they've shaped it well so that water will move around it. Of course, you can probably see there in the distance there's still a bunch of topsoil that we need to put back in, but we're not going to do that until the final building stuff is done and we know how it needs to all be worked back in. So that is topsoil that was skimmed off the top, just put into a huge pile. Way over there in that section is another huge pile of topsoil as well. So you can see now we're standing on top of this hill that was created. So that's how much soil came out of that section and was moved down to the driveway. So it was about even with where I'm standing right now. You can see how much it comes down this hill now. So this right here is where they've cut this out so that the water is this is gonna be the low spot running that direction. It slopes down there, and they have it pushing out on the other side of those trees. And then of course the building pad is set up higher than everything else. Back here on the back side now, I want to show you where this pushes through. So this will push through kind of through this fence line over here, and we may have to kind of carve this out even a little bit more, but they were waiting for that soil to harden up. It was a little wet in that corner, so this will all push out here. It's all naturally slopes down, and down in that section where those trees are is where that ditch is. We put in the culvert. You can see kind of right over where my finger is right now. You can see that's where that culvert is. So this all runs to that waterway anyway. And also this would be the section where we wanted to put a pond eventually. So it should all be running down into an area where we're already used to it having a waterway and used to it kind of being wet through that section. One of the reasons too that we couldn't just leave that height as it was over there and bring it all the way across here and build this corner way up was because then our driveway was going to have to come way up in height, or there was going to have to be a major slope into the driveway, and we just didn't want to have a huge, angle into our driveway, because it would have looked similar to that angle over there, and that would have been kind of a pain to try to drive into the shop with such an angle in the winter and all that stuff. So we had to kind of keep this at a similar height to where it was, and there is still slope coming down the driveway naturally, so we wanted to kind of keep that, but we didn't want to have a drastic driveway just for the future. So that's why all that had to be cut out of that section to kind of make everything look even. So we'll see how it all turns out, but interesting how it all works. More water starting to pool over in this kind of marshy area and freezing. You can see the ice back in there. No water down in there. Starting to get frozen through here. Just saw another really big buck jump that fence over there. I'll have to keep an eye on that one. That thing was huge. I just wanted to do a quick check and see if I see anything major down in the more heavily wooded area. Not really. Doesn't seem to be much of anything major trees down or anything like that. As soon as you turn that corner by Berry Lane and you start coming up this hill, just the change in the wind is immediate. It's kind of crazy to see. So that's the update on that stuff today. I just kind of want to give you a quick look at how things had changed after all that work that we did, and kind of what's going to be happening soon as we get towards starting the build. If it continues the way that it is, we get everything sorted out and the weather continues to be the way that it is, then it's possible we might be getting this started sooner rather than later. So I'll keep you along for the ride and keep you updated on things. I want to thank you so much for watching today. We'll see you next time. So the other day when I was investigating if I saw any damage or anything, I didn't really come down by the creek, and now today I did, and I actually, this isn't really damage to anything, but if you remember right here, my friend Will and I just had all of that cleaned up, so you'll notice how much has fallen down. And I have been concerned about these trees over here because they're pretty dead, most of them, and I told him that day, I was like, if there's a good wind someday, you definitely do not want to be down here, because I was kind of scared of them falling over. And well, looks like my fears there have been confirmed. We need to get some of these trees taken down if we're going to be in some of these areas, some of these dead trees that some of them did it for us, but a couple of these are going to have to be taken care of yet. Definitely some massive wind came through here for sure.